I want to point out is that this is not the fastest way to go about doing this. Everyone else has some other things with chelating and some harsher chemicals. I'm trying to actually base this off actual uh, published papers by archivists who are actually trying to just preserve the coins or the artifacts in this case. Some of the techniques they use are for like things like larger items like cannons and other things they pulled out of the water. But this is valid for coppers, basically. Now, one of the things I am doing in this is I am going and I'm experimenting on other alloys with this. So I wouldn't really use the whole workflow for this, but I'm just trying to show all the little cases that I ran into doing that. The only thing that I'm would consider experimental is the sodium carbonate being used on various different types of metals and stuff other than the actual copper. So this is a picture of the setup I'm using. I'm going to have some zoomed in pictures with the microscope on the right, and the setup on the left is a little sheet of glass that does a beam splitter, and that's how auction houses do it. They use a way better camera. I'm trying to actually do a kind of a cheaper setup, so maybe other people can kind of set up theirs. And so I've been experimenting. So yeah, you can pull out a DLSR overhead with a zoom lens and all sorts of stuff, and that's what the auction houses would be doing. But in this case, I'm doing a web camera. It's a 4K web camera with a $50 little lens there that's zoomed in. So it's not the best one, but I share pictures on the Facebook group. So hopefully, I'm open to criticisms on the picture. I've been hunting around for better cameras. So this is the one on the left there with the little 4K camera. You'll see text on the left. If you go to the data set that I published on the Facebook group, you'll see, I'll add in the rest. It's not all there. You won't just see the coin number, but you'll see text saying what I did to the coin at the point of this picture and stuff. And then this is for the microscope, so we can kind of zoom in and see what's going on. This is the stereo that I showed there on the right. It's an Olympus stereo. So. But basically, I was just going to summarize through the workflow. Uh, there's a couple of soakings that you do to the acetone will remove some the biological oils, other kind of things like that, and also PVC damage. I'll be showing examples of PVC damage. And the sodium carbonate will pull out the chlorine that copper, unlike the other alloys, when the grain hardens from molten metal down, it actually does kind of have a rice shape, some kind of a grain shape, and that leaves little curved areas in the corners for water to kind of soak down into. So if you have something that's been in the ocean or on the beach or buried in the ground or in some kind of moist environment under a house or whatever, moisture and also just chlorine, and since we've had 100 years of coal and acid rain and other stuff, chlorine, other things will get down into the actual metals that'll be subsurface. If you bake the coin, which a lot of members of EAC have been recommending, and I have experimented and tried it, you'll pull out the moisture out of the verdigris and it will decompose the verdigris from a green or a bright green into kind of whites. Also affect the surface and tone surface depending on the air and the stove that you're doing. You can add reds and blues and other things like that that are unpredictable. Plus, also, you are heating up the coin to 400 degrees and it could possibly warp or something else could happen. But one thing you're not doing is you're not actually pulling the chlorine out of it. From what I haven't gotten exact quotes on that, but that seems to be the case. So the sodium carbonate gets you pretty much what you would have gotten with the baking. The baking hardens the crystals and makes it harder to remove, and also doesn't preserve the coin because it can still corrode. It can still have bronze disease later on. So the sodium carbonate, soak it overnight. I've done days with the sodium carbonate. The coin will be fine. Copper coins. The other alloys I'm going to be showing will have, we'll see what the effects are with those. But basically, it's a cycle of I'm soaking it, then I put it in an ultrasonic. You can buy them for $50, $70. You can also buy them for $1,000. The difference is the $1,000 version will vary the frequency and go up and down in frequency. So you can just kind of put an item in there, a circuit board that you want to clean, leave it there for 45 minutes and walk away, and it'll get cleaned. In this case, I'm going to be using a technique that I'll show here where I'm pointing a spoon, holding the coin in and moving it around until I actually feel it in the coin. And you're getting the different frequencies or different harmonics anyway. Then you rinse and spray, and maybe you might poke at them, but we'll go over some of that. So basically, sodium carbonate. I get a mason jar. Here are the proportions. When we can share the slides, maybe put the slide deck up on the Facebook group as a files thing or something. And I use a coffee weigh scale basically to weigh it out. One thing as you're weighing it out, it will clump down at the bottom. There's big white chunks, so you really need to violently shake the bottle and really get it into a solution. And then it basically, if you set it down for about 10 seconds, it'll turn clearish for the most part. But you don't want to be seeing white powder on the bottom. That means you just need to mix it up a bit more. The other setup that I do is, since I'm doing a whole bunch of coins, I can align these little Tupperware things with like a dozen coins, each in their own little separate sandwich bag. The sandwich bag will not melt with the acetone. Other plastics will. If you do have coin collectors, will have slabs, and those are acrylic. That melts instantly in acetone. In fact, how you glue acrylic together is brush on a little bit of acetone and you press two pieces together. That's how they actually glue acrylic pieces together. That's probably how they seal the PCGS containers and stuff like that. Latex, there are videos out on YouTube that say latex is immune to and supposedly should be. Is there a question? Is immune to acetone. I've been finding a yellow residue in the acetone after I just even reach in and pick it out with latex gloves. So something in the Home Depot, Amazon gloves that you can buy that are latex, there's something coated on them or in them or something. Latex does have a high variable way of manufacture. People are allergic to latex, not because of latex, but because in the 80s, they left certain proteins in the manufacturing process, and that's what people triggered off of. And so they're now allergic to the unrelated item of latex. That shouldn't be happening. So we shouldn't have people with anaphylactic shock from latex anymore because they've changed the manufacturing process to not include some extra proteins or something that were in there. Little side note. But anyway, setting up for the sodium carbonate, I also pour it in there as well. I just use a larger amount and stuff, and put the coin there. I put the coin in the corner to save on how much acetone I use, and then I clip it up to the edge. And if I have a little envelope there, I jam that into the binder clip there, so I can keep the numbers with the coins and stuff like that. So that's how I've been able to do a few dozen at a time and stuff. I wish I had a picture with all of them going. I think we've covered most of this.
Ted,
Yeah.
Christopher just put in the chat. He has a question. At some point, do you return to the ultrasonic
Yeah.
slide? Oh, could you return to the ultrasonic slide?
Don't think I had one just yet, but I'll be getting there.
Okay.
So this is just, yeah, I actually have a picture showing what I'm doing if that's what you're curious about, Chris. Assume this is Chris Arnold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I should get, there we are. Here's a chat window. Yeah, let me know if there's any other questions because I wasn't scrolling through on that. And let's see, let me switch back. And oh yeah, so I just put it in the corner, seal it off. Do note with the acetone that the folded over plastic bag does act like a distiller, and you can get acetone forming over by the seal, and it can drip. So you want to make certain don't do this on a wood table like the dining room table, because no matter how careful you are, you will get a drip on your varnish, and it will actually remove a little bit of the varnish on the surface. Don't ask me how I know that one recently. But this is the ultrasonic machine. I put the coin in the spoon, and then I'm basically moving it around in the water. And then at some points, you really feel the high frequency. Sometimes you just hear it, and you'll see the rippling across the surface. And that's when you'll know that you're actually kind of hitting something there with the coin. I have a couple examples where if you have a nice powdery verdigris on the coin, you'll have a very satisfying plume kind of exit for several seconds there. And then that probably won't happen again with that coin. You can see the residue from the dozen coins done for this presentation there down at the bottom of the tank there. Uh, so I think that was, but for the most part, it's usually a very slight change. It's nothing so drastic, but sometimes it can be. Then when I pull it out of the soap, oh, I should mention, it's basically tap water. So yeah, there's chlorine in there, but I'm using a bunch of this and it's only in there for a few minutes. If you get paranoid, sure, use distilled. And then I just pour a whole bunch of Dawn in there. So Dawn, a bunch of the archivists kept saying it was a non-acidic soap, and I was always hesitant to do it. And then Dan knew a guy, I think his last name was Walker or something, who was saying, no, it actually is okay. But I have not found any articles that prove or done full tests that Dawn soap is like totally archive safe or anything. But all the archivists have been doing it. It's a non-acidic soap. You can actually put it on the metals, and they do it. And it's basically a detergent. So MS-70 is basically a really strong detergent, is what it is, and so is this, and it pulls things off the surface.
I think Ken Porter also had told me at one point that he recommends in his research to use
Yes.
one.
Yeah, but I haven't found like a definitive. The Canadian articles, Canada, and I think I posted the link to the PDF. If you search for uh, artifacts in Canada, they have a museum book that's a PDF that you can go through all the different kind of metals and things and what they do. And some of this is confirmed with that. And then there was another article I had posted references to that I'm actually using for the sodium carbonate. So, which I also want to mention, don't confuse that with sodium bicarbonate. That'll be a harsher thing. The sodium carbonate, according to the paper, is gentle on the patina. So, and so far in my experiments, you can take a nice, even a reddish coin, although I would be testing if it was an expensive one, and you can soak it in there for days, and it will be fine. So I like processes where I'm not dipping for 9 minutes and 27 seconds, and if it's a little too much, then I've ruined the Morgan dollar or something. I don't like those kind of processes. I want a conservative process. So, and then after I pull it out of the soap, I spray it with isopropyl and then blow it with these little camera lens blowers until it's dry, and then I inspect it and stuff, and then I rinse and repeat basically. And after every cycle, if I am going to stop and I think I'm done, I'll still soak it with acetone just to kind of clean off anything that I'm or soap residue or anything, just to be paranoid or so. So some verdigris. But sometimes you will have, and I have some better examples here, some cases where the verdigris is harder, and so you might want to take something and poke at it a little bit. And so we'll mention a couple of things. You can use the toothpick. I use skewers that I will then take a razor blade and cut right down and split it into smaller little shards. And that allows me to get into the corner. You can see that I have different diameters. They're all from the same skewer, and I just kind of cut them down. Sometimes there is a sewing needle there in the upper right corner. I'll show a technique using that. I did compare at EAC notes with Jim Carr. He uses syringes, which have a nice little scoop shape I hadn't thought of. I have syringes too for gluing, but I'll show the way he does it as well. But the technique I'll show, I think, is good for novices or those who don't do it a lot. But I am using a stereo though, so you do see a lot. You can zoom in and see what you're doing. So if you see glossy verdigris like this is it's like a calcite or some other kind of thing. It is really hard to remove. So I've taken like a metal needle and I've pushed on it, and then once it crumbles, even just a little bit, it just starts disintegrating. But maybe I'm going to try with the coin that this picture's from and soak it for a few days and see if I can get the sodium carbonate to kind of soak in. But so far, usually the example I have is across the whole coin. Usually it's just a few spots, and I have had to actually take the needle and actually like press down. I don't do strokes because I don't want because when you remove verdigris, you're seeing raw copper underneath, and there'll be scratches. And if it happens to be in the direction that you were poking or pushing or stroking the surface, you'll think that you did it. But if you're just pressing down and you reveal scratches, you'll know it wasn't you that created the scratches and stuff. So after a while, I kind of get a little paranoid about doing these kind of things. So basically, top picture there is me taking I took a skewer that's about a 16th of an inch in diameter, and then took a razor blade and I cut it down to it's like, I don't know, 0.75 millimeter, less than a millimeter thick. And you can kind of go in under the microscope and poke out a little bit of verdigris. Or you can take a hawthorn and kind of tap around and for larger parts and stuff. This is with the needle, and that coin is the coin. This is what that needle is hovering over right now. Um, I rock it on the finger. I press my finger down on the coin, and then I actually, under the microscope, which is stereo, I can see the depth. I can then press down and I can kind of control where the needle's going. Because when you're doing this on a early date 1794, you get a little paranoid. You really don't want to scratch or really ding into it because copper, you will leave a bright copper mark if you press down into it in the wrong areas and stuff. Now, Jim Carr, he's taking the syringe and he's actually holding it like a pencil and pushing vertically down. And he has a stereo microscope too. And yeah, I can see the appeal to it if you've been doing it a bunch of times. But if you haven't been, I'd recommend the rocking technique because he's like leaning into it with his hand rocking down into it. I'm trying to really just press down on the top of my finger and get an idea as to exactly where the needle is. But overall, this is the riskiest part, and I'm hoping you can just cycle through the soakings and the ultrasonics and avoid using the metal needle because you need to practice a bit to make sure that you're not scraping into the copper. And as you're finishing a coin, you will have a white hazy look over the coin. Now, a lot of people you'll hear will say once you soak it in acetone, it leaves the coin looking dry or something. And one thing I've found with isopropyl with the air blowing, so if I'll wet the coin down with isopropyl and then I'll blow it with the camera lens blower, and it too will also have a white haze look on it. Now, if you actually look at the surface, the verdigris, when you put something like a solvent on it and it quickly evaporates, the surface of it does crack up like a dry mud and pictures. You've seen dry mud pictures in the desert where you've seen millions of cracks and stuff. Essentially, you've kind of devastated the surface and it turns whiter is what's happening. And so in this case, also, there's still a lot of verdigris in this picture. I wasn't able to find a really good example, but you kind of see a white haze around the portrait. And if you zoom in, you'll see tiny, tiny cracks with still some little bits of verdigris that you can't reach into. And so basically what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to cycle through a couple more times. More ultrasonic will remove that white haze and stuff. So some people, I know a corn dealer was telling one person to do MS-70. MS-70 is a harsh detergent. So you're in the dawn category with an ultrasonic, basically. So just go with the more conservative one. But if you have, I mean, if you have your own workflow, do whatever works for you. Um, and then I always end with a soak of acetone just to kind of clean everything off. So this one was just acetone and ultrasonic. It had a lot of verdigris in the text, and down below, basically, it was all removed. I didn't have to poke at it or do anything. And this was before I was doing sodium carbonate and stuff. So I know that top to bottom, the middle one captures the verdigris better, but it's the same coin in the top and the middle, and then the bottom is after just doing the ultrasonic. This is a result of baking. I had posted a whole bunch of different baking things. It turns into a harder crystal that's harder to remove, basically. So you're better off just doing the sodium carbonate. You devastate the verdigris the same way. It's just that it doesn't turn hard. In this case, baking, if you see solid black crystals on a copper coin, it's been heated basically, and that's one of the hardest crystals to actually kind of to remove at that point. So you're just kind of making more work for yourself. And then also you're not doing a preservationist job. You're not pulling what made the problem. So it could reoccur later on once humidity hits the coin again. And the rest of the slides are me experimenting and showing some results. This is verdigris. You can see the labels there on the right. I'll post the collection of pictures. I had posted a Nordlock folder with all the original ones. I can now post the ones with the little labels here tracking what was happening. Basically, it was ultrasonic soaking in sodium carbonate, and then I just flushed it over with IPA and a little bit of air, and these are the results. There is damage. All these coins were I bought out of a bin out at Pan a couple weeks ago for less than $1 each, and they were all horribly corroded coins. This is probably one of the better ones, and so there will be pitting underneath the green, basically. This one, though, I had on my desk and as a little twiddle toy. I was basically putting my fingers. I was surprised that verdigris actually formed after 2 months of doing that. I just thought it would tone or something, but I didn't realize that it would actually corrode. So this is soaking it basically removed it for the most part. But if you do zoom in, you do see a white. You can see under the armpit there, and then the A, this kind of white gritty sort of a thing. Doing the ultrasonic, then on the bottom image, basically completely removed that as well. So it was basically from the screen that was in there soaking it, turned it into kind of basically removed it. But when you zoomed in, you realized there was kind of a white grit that was there, and then ultrasonic basically pulled it off. This is the same coin at the start. Verdigris was inside the side text. This dollar coin is copper with brass on top and bottom. It is a clad coin, and going through the process even got into the letters there on the sides. So. And then we get into the PVC damaged coins, and basically soaking it removes an acetone, removes a ton of it. You can see on the right side by the bird's head, a haze. It's kind of hard to photograph that, maybe, but for the most part, it actually clears off pretty well. Then you're going to be left with a little bit of green PVC that's a little bit gooier, and you're going to have to ultrasonically clean that, and then just kind of repeat is what I'm doing with these. It's a proof coin, so you don't really want to do much more on that. I have had an Eisenhower with one green speck on it, and I did tap on it, and I'll show what PVC damage does look like on a smooth coin. This one's probably, you can see the PVC toning, the off gassing kind of hit from the outside going in. You can see the edge, and the reading will usually have a lot of gooey green in there. If it's PVC damage, I have seen these in proof sets that are sealed. I don't know how that happened. But afterwards, for the most part, most of it come off. You can see some toning, not really toning, maybe it's damage around the and the turbago. But there is a black spot above the N and the T, and that's what it actually looks like when you zoom in on the microscope. Lighting, a proof coin, you'll kind of get dark field, bright field lighting, and it looks black with the bright field lighting. But when you zoom in, that's actually what PVC damage looks like on a nice, smooth cameo field of a proof coin. You'll see different reds and different diets of the grain showing up, but it's PVC damage. There's no way you can fix that short of, doing something artistically, polishing the coin or something like that. The surface is damaged there. That's the best that you could possibly do. But in the upper left here, you can see under the C some of the blue toning after, I think this says third ultrasonic. And then I did some more, and I was able to get that blue stuff under the C to the left of the drum. In the lower right picture, it's gone. Above the N and the T, you see a white dot. That's the same as that splotch that's there. It's the PVC damaged surface. So it's still there. It's just that the lighting can make it hide it or show it a little bit more. That's all. This is tape damage. This is a token that was plated. I did soak it for 2, 3 days in acetone and stuff, but if you look under the microscope, it it's basically damaged on the surface. I think all the residue of the tape is actually gone. I don't know that there's really any way to do more than this on the and then here's the verdigris coin that I was showing with the needle. It's a real deep, really hard, glossy kind of verdigris. You can see some of it is coming off with the process there. There is some shiny copper showing a little bit, but I'll probably soak this for a few days. There is a technique where one of the papers mentions where you wrap it in aluminum foil, and the aluminum foil is a sacrificial material. It does devastate the aluminum foil, but I don't know that I saw any progress more on the coin itself. So I don't really understand. I have to research that one, but there is some other things that people have done. So, and this is the really hard glossy stuff. For the most part, I've on the early American coppers, it's usually in one or two places, and you can press it and it'll pop into lots of little cracks, and all the stuff underneath it, the volume of it will actually disintegrate pretty quickly. Uh, this one there's in the paper they talk about dual metals, uh, absolutely well circulated. I saw a text pop up or something, absolutely. Uh, the papers talk, but they're more worried about copper and iron or silver and iron or something because the two metals will react with it if you put them in a solution together. I was curious, most people will have these brass nickel kind of combo alloys. And so I soaked it for a day. It did tone, though. You can see, and so I need to find, I soaked it in acetone for a short bit, and then I soaked it in the sodium carbonate overnight. And this is the only example I found where it actually did do some toning on the coin. I soaked it again in acetone. Maybe I thought maybe there was still some oils or something there, but it hasn't come off. So I thought I need to experiment more on that. All the other ones were not toning in any way, so maybe this just might be a one-off that just happens to be my one example of a dual metal coin. Uh, but maybe I'll try it out with some other dual metal ones just to see if and try to research why it is that happened. So I've done a whole bunch of Canadian coins that were PVC damaged, soaked them. I didn't see any toning changes and stuff like that. So that's why I was prefacing the beginning of this presentation that the process is for copper coins, and all the other alloy ones are experimental. So this is the one experiment that kind of came back as I was kind of surprised to see. So maybe I just missed something when maybe there was still dirt there on those corners or something like that, and I don't know why that tone. So
So
anyway, just sharing the results.
Johnny's posted, please use pure acetone from Home Depot or and don't get it on your hands. It absorbs through your skin and is toxic. And I said yes, and in a well circulated area.
Well, I have experimented with xylene. Xylene is certainly something I would be really paranoid about. It's the smell that's in spray cans. That's what xylene is, and so you can buy that from Home Depot. I'm using optical grade acetone because I also have optics and other things. You can go Home Depot. It will be the lower grade acetone with a bunch of particles and stuff in it. If I was to do it, I would get it from nail salon, non-pink acetone 100% without the color. Sometimes they'll say 100%, but it'll be pink and it shouldn't be. Just buy it from CVS or something like that. It's the 100%, it'll be fine. You do have to do a lot of diligence on your part to do yourself in with acetone. It's listed as low toxicity. It's also produced by the human body. So when when you're on the Atkins diet and you have bad breath, it's because you're breathing out ketones, and acetone's a ketone, and that's the one that's giving you the bad breath. Now, fair enough, you're not the human body's not doing 100% pure liquid acetone as production, but you are breathing out an acetone vapor. I would not snort acetone. I would not want to try it. But you have to go out of your way to do yourself in with acetone. Now, is it a neurological issue of any sort? there are papers where furniture makers, painters, and other stuff, because more of the xylene and the other VOCs that are in paints, people have had brain scans and shown some issues and other things like that. So the VOCs are something that you need to be concerned about. But there have been studies on nail salons, which is another little contained room of poorly vented VOCs, mostly sulfur from cooked hair and acetones and stuff. But so far, no one seems to be mentioning any issues with that group. So women have been sticking their hands in containers of acetones for the past 50 years to remove their nails. And so far, no one's talking about neurological Parkinson's or any other kind of things on that side. If there is a sub part of the population with that, it's probably going to be a very specific condition for that. But I would agree that I don't want to be the one to test this. So I would be, well ventilated area, keep the lid on. But on a practical sense, you want to keep the lid on the container because it will, deplete. And also, it will suck moisture out of the air and become less effective. If you have acetone and you left the bottle open overnight, it will still be in that container. It's just that when you pour it onto something, it doesn't evaporate as fast. In fact, it kind of lingers around. And that's because acetone will pull moisture out of the air and become water and acetone as a solution and then stop evaporating as fast. So that's why it settles into a steady state at that point. But it is listed as low toxicity. Xylene is also listed as low toxicity, but it also comes a whole bunch of statements that sound like smoker cell phone statements where they're like, no proof has been shown that it causes neurological, but the acetone, the statements are, it is not shown to be a carcinogen. So they have more solid statements about acetone versus xylene. So I'd be more paranoid about the xylene and stuff. Also, the human body doesn't produce xylene, it produces acetone. But anyway.
And there's just also a comment about being diabetic, and um, you should avoid having it on your hands and it being flammable.
Yeah. So if you put it on a lid on the thing, be in a well-ventilated area, there shouldn't be an issue with the flammability thing. I mean, you kind of have to go out of the way to make that an issue. I don't know, I think Dan Rice uses wood tongs or something, but I just use the plastic bag. If you invert the bag enough, you get the coin up and out of the bag and let it dry, and then you can pull it out by your hand and you don't have any acetone on your hand. Or so. I haven't seen any papers on diabetic versus skin absorption and stuff. I'm back to the nail salon thing. I'm certain there was a diabetic woman doing nails in the last 50, 75 years, and they're just a bath of acetone in those places. But there has been studies focusing on the VOCs of nail salons, but so far no one seems to be saying anything on that side. So as all the solvents go, isopropyl acetone, I use some common sense, and I don't think there'll be any long-term issues from what I'm seeing so far.
And the other comment I'm seeing is that Christopher would like to see the slide again with the coffee scale
Sure.
when you can. So after you're done with all this.
Yeah. Okay. Um, the other one is this fake pine tree coin. Uh, I poured in the sodium carbonate and it turned pretty white almost instantaneously. That did not happen with the Chinese coin. So this is a very powdery verdigris copper surface. But leaving it overnight, lower right's what you got in terms of what happened to the coin. And that was after doing the ultrasonic. So upper right is after, oh, that's right. Upper right is what it looked like after I soaked it. And then you put it into the ultrasonic, and it was a huge, huge plume of just sandy grit coming off almost instantly. And that's the coin that you get after doing a couple of rounds on the lower right. Um, the next night after the first soak, just setting it down onto the stage there, it was just crumbling. A bunch of the stuff was just crumbling off. So I set the coin aside to show what it actually, the stuff that was coming off. On the right image here is under the microscope. I was using a needle on the hard crystals just to, and then I just started carving into it. Uh, this is as you can see in the picture on the left, it's a copy stamp there. So this is an AliExpress coin of some sort. Uh, it's, I think, tin or something because it's a real. I'm carving into the metal there, and it looked like aluminum at first, but it's really soft. So I was kind of surprised. Usually the AliExpress copper coins are actually not plated, but they are actually made out of copper. But maybe I should check more and dig deeper into some of the ones that I got. But this one is actually it's a tin or a zinc or I don't know what that is. And then they apparently plated over it with a copper. And they probably also did some process to kind of make it look a little older. So they probably corroded the copper that they did to put some kind of patina on there. So and then this is a typical Canadian coin issues that I was running into. This is a gooier, hard. It just takes time cycling through this. You can tap on this and stuff, and it's not necessarily going to come off. Just soaking it, I think, and then just cycling through it a few more times. Ultrasonic and more sodium carbonate as more of it gets exposed or so. This is another example, more of a brass. I think it's brass plated over some. There's a lot of red rust that's underneath. So I don't know exactly what the coin is actually made out of. Someone knows Costa Rica what they would have made this out of, but the lower right's the state that it's in right now. You can. I wrote in pencil second night, so it was 2 nights of soaking, a couple of ultrasonics. That's what you get in removal. This one I was showing just one night, pretty much got rid of all the white specks that are buried into all these tiny, tiny scratches. You'll see this on a lot of coppers. And that's also leads to when it's a finer set of scratches, will be the white haze look that you'll get. And just one night is able to pull that off. I didn't even do the ultrasonic for that image on the right. Then there's silver coins. Um, if you zoomed in, there is a waxy crud. The F there you can see just above the middle serif. There is a lump that goes down in there. When you're in the stereo, you see it much better, but it's a thick yellow wax kind of a thing that's there. And you can see it on the lower left. Basically, just soaking and then ultrasonic was removing a bunch of it. I think, oh yeah, I only acetoned with this one. I have another example of this of a different year where I did soak it in sodium carbonate. Supposedly, it doesn't react with silver or silver oxides or silver sulfides, uh, but after doing a couple of cycles, and I don't have the picture here, it is a super clean coin, which I don't know is a good idea if you wanted to resell it. But supposedly no metal was removed. So that's something I want to also experiment a little bit more on. But supposedly the sodium carbonate, which this has not gone through, this is just acetone to remove the yellow wax stuff. And it seems to be working. Actually, I do have some pictures just the isopropyl under the microscope was dissolving it as well. So I would put a drip of isopropyl and blow it, and another drip and blow it, and you'd see it actually start to disintegrate. So I just threw it in acetone overnight, basically. And that, I believe, was it. So I think somebody wanted, I think it was Chris Arnold wanted to see and I have a dozen of these coins showing the states with pencil marks on the left in the image. I can put another batch on the Nordlock thing. So if people want, they can go through and look at the progress and see what happened. So that's the ultrasonic machine. Which slide was of
I think it was the one with the weight. But he also
oh, the
asked,
actual formula. So here's that.
yes, and he's asking if
Oh, let me scroll down on the chat.
it,
What's that?
there's a
Is
if there's a
oh yeah.
are you reading it?
Yeah, yeah. So if you go on the Amazon and you get There are these really tiny round ones for jeweler things. I would avoid those. There's it's about the size of a toaster. Just a metal box, very clunky looking thing. It's got a little heater and a timer thing on it. They sell for 50 to 70 bucks. You can get one that looks exactly like it, but from a good company for $1,000. And that's the one that does all the multi-frequency thing. And if you're in an electronics shop and you're pulling out a laptop motherboard and you're putting it into the solution to clean, you don't want to sit there and hold it, move it around for 45 minutes. You want to just leave it there. You're getting paid per hour, and then you walk away and you come back and it's clean. If I did have the more expensive one, I would probably create a little what's called a dip tray. And I wouldn't dip with it, but basically you put the coin in there and then I would set it in there and walk away and just let it run for a bit. But what I'm doing here is I'm holding it like in a spoon, using that as a dip tray, and I'm finding the different harmonics. You're not going to get all the frequencies, but you are going to get multiples of sub-fractional parts of the frequencies that are in there, the harmonics basically, because they kind of like bounce around in the container and some places build, some places cancel out. And so you'll find a spot as you move the coin around that hits that coin and you'll feel it vibrate and you'll see the water ripple above it. And sometimes you won't even see that. You'll just hear this ultra high sound where it's doing something at a very high frequency in there. So it's a $50 to $70 thing. There are $30 cheaper ones that look they're round plastics and stuff, and they say they're for jewelry. And I haven't maybe they're excellent. I don't know, but I would just go with the one that sells in the hundreds, if not millions, and that's these clunkier lookinger ones. Uh, I think I had one in the last presentation, a picture I should show. But if you just do a search on Amazon, find the one that fits your budget. This one was about 6 inches by 4 inches or so, 3 inches deep or something. You can get 3 liter ones, you can get huge ones,
Great.
and even the
Thank you.
large ones are $300. So what?
Thank you very much.
Oh yeah.